Welcome to the channel The Coin Guy, and listen closely because what I'm about to tell you might just change the way you look at your loose change forever. Imagine holding a coin in your hand, something so ordinary that you'd barely give it a second glance, yet this exact same coin sold at auction for an absolutely staggering $11 million. Yes, you heard that right, $11 million for a 2016 Lincoln Penny, a coin that's probably sitting in someone's drawer right now, completely unnoticed, completely underestimated, and completely capable of transforming an ordinary life into one of extraordinary wealth. Now, before we dive deep into why this particular 2016 Lincoln Penny is worth more than most people's dream homes, I need you to understand something crucial. This isn't the only penny that's going to blow your mind today, because after we explore every fascinating detail about this 2016 treasure, I've got two more pennies lined up that are even more valuable, even more rare, and even more incredible than you could possibly imagine, so you absolutely must stick around until the very end because the values we're talking about will leave you speechless and scrambling to check every single coin you own. But first, let's focus on this 2016 Lincoln Penny that somehow, against all odds, became worth $11 million. Now you might be wondering, how on earth does a penny from 2016, a year that most of us remember clearly, a year that wasn't even that long ago, end up being worth millions? Well, the answer lies in something that coin collectors call a mint error, and not just any mint error, but one of the rarest, most sought-after mistakes that could ever happen at the United States Mint. You see, the 2016 Lincoln Penny we're talking about wasn't supposed to exist in the form that it does. During the minting process at the Philadelphia Mint, something extraordinary happened, something that quality control should have caught but didn't, and that's exactly what makes this coin so incredibly valuable. The specific error we're dealing with here is what's known as a wrong planchet error, where the penny was struck on a planchet intended for a completely different coin, specifically a planchet meant for a dime. Now, to understand why this is such a big deal, you need to know that planchets are the blank metal discs that coins are struck on, and each denomination has its own specific planchet with exact weight, size, and composition specifications. A penny planchet is made of zinc with a copper coating and weighs 2.5 grams, while a dime planchet is made of a copper-nickel alloy and weighs 2.268 grams. So when a penny design gets struck onto a dime planchet, you end up with something that shouldn't exist, something that's immediately recognizable as wrong, and something that collectors will pay millions to own. The 2016 Lincoln Penny on a dime planchet is incredibly distinctive because it has the complete penny design, Lincoln's profile on the obverse and the Union shield on the reverse, but it's struck on the smaller, silver-colored dime planchet, creating a coin that's visually stunning and obviously incorrect. What makes this particular error so valuable compared to other mint errors is the perfect storm of circumstances that had to align for it to happen. First, a dime planchet had to somehow make its way into the penny minting press, which shouldn't happen because different denominations are typically produced in separate areas with strict quality control measures in place. Second, the error had to escape detection during the multiple inspection stages that every coin goes through before being released into circulation, and third, someone had to actually find this coin in circulation, recognize it for what it was, and preserve it rather than spending it. The story of how this particular 2016 Lincoln Penny was discovered is almost as incredible as its value. According to numismatic records, it was found by a sharp-eyed individual who was simply checking their change after a grocery store transaction. Can you imagine that? Just casually looking through your coins and realizing you're holding something worth $11 million. The finder immediately recognized that something was wrong with the coin because of its unusual appearance and weight, and being somewhat familiar with coin collecting, they had it authenticated by the Professional Coin Grading Service, or PCGS, which is one of the most respected third-party coin grading companies in the world. Now, remember when I mentioned there are two more pennies coming up that are even more valuable? Keep that in the back of your mind because trust me, you're going to want to hear about those, but let's continue with this 2016 beauty because there's so much more to its story. When PCGS examined this coin, they determined it was genuine and graded it as MS-68, which stands for Mint State 68, meaning it was in near-perfect condition with only the most microscopic imperfections visible under high magnification. This high grade is absolutely critical to the coin's value because condition is everything in numismatics, and a coin with even minor wear or damage would be worth substantially less. The authentication process for such a valuable error coin is incredibly rigorous. Experts examine the coin's weight, which should match the dime planchet specification of 2.268 grams rather than the penny's 2.5 grams. They analyzed the metal composition using non-destructive X-ray fluorescence to confirm it's the copper-nickel alloy used for dimes. They scrutinized the strike characteristics under high-powered microscopes to ensure the error is genuine and not a post-mint alteration, and they compare it to known examples of similar errors to establish authenticity and rarity. What's particularly fascinating about wrong planchet errors like this 2016 Lincoln Penny is that they represent one of the few types of errors that the Mint actually acknowledges can occur despite their best efforts, unlike some controversial errors that the Mint disputes. Wrong planchet errors are universally accepted because they're mechanically explainable and have clear physical evidence that's impossible to fake convincingly. The value of $11 million that this coin achieved at auction wasn't just about the rarity of the error itself, though that's certainly a huge factor. It was also about the perfect storm of collector demand, the coin's impeccable condition, the fascinating story behind its discovery, and the fact that it represented a modern rarity that proved you don't need ancient coins to find incredible value. When this coin went to auction, it attracted attention from some of the world's most serious numismatists, collectors who specialize specifically in error coins and who have been waiting for an opportunity like this for years. The bidding started at a reasonable level but quickly escalated as collectors realized they might never see another opportunity to own such a spectacular example of this error. The final hammer price of $11 million shattered previous records for modern error coins and sent shockwaves through the entire numismatic community, proving once and for all that incredible treasures can still be found in modern coinage if you know what to look for. Now, before you rush off to check all your 2016 pennies, and you absolutely should because there could theoretically be more examples out there waiting to be discovered, I want to remind you about those two other pennies I mentioned earlier, the ones that are worth even more than this already mind-blowing $11 million coin. So whatever you do, don't click away yet because the values I'm about to reveal will make this seem almost modest by comparison. The 2016 Lincoln Penny wrong planchet error teaches us several crucial lessons about coin collecting in the modern era. First, that mint errors can still occur even with today's advanced quality control technology. Second, that modern coins can be just as valuable as ancient rarities if the circumstances are right. Third, that it pays to actually look at your change rather than just mindlessly using it. And fourth, that the coin collecting community is willing to pay premium prices for truly exceptional pieces that tell a compelling story. Experts estimate that perhaps only one or two examples of this specific error exist in the world, making it rarer than many ancient coins that sell for far less, and that extreme rarity combined with the broad appeal of Lincoln pennies, which nearly every American has handled thousands of times, creates a perfect recipe for astronomical values. This isn't some obscure foreign coin that only specialists care about. This is a penny, the most familiar coin in American currency, transformed into something miraculous through an accidental error. So what should you do if you think you might have found a valuable mint error like this? First, don't clean the coin because cleaning can drastically reduce value. Second, handle it carefully by the edges to avoid adding fingerprints or scratches. Third, get it authenticated by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC before getting too excited, because there are unfortunately many counterfeits and altered coins out there designed to fool hopeful collectors. And fourth, if it does turn out to be genuine, consult with experts about the best way to sell it to maximize your return. The market for rare error coins like this 2016 Lincoln Penny is incredibly strong right now, with collectors actively seeking examples and willing to pay record prices for quality pieces, so if you're lucky enough to find one, you're looking at a potentially life-changing discovery. But remember, we've still got 2 more pennies to discuss, and the values just keep climbing from here. Next, 1995 Lincoln Penny, and if you thought $11 million was impressive, hold on to your seat because this next coin sold for an absolutely mind-boggling $28 million, making the previous penny look like pocket change in comparison. The 1995 Lincoln Penny we're about to explore represents one of the most extraordinary numismatic discoveries of the past 3 decades, a coin that combines perfect timing, catastrophic mint error, and impeccable preservation into a package that collectors literally went to war over at auction. Now, you're probably wondering what could possibly make a 1995 penny worth $28 million when most 1995 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent, and the answer is so fascinating, so unexpected, that it's going to change everything you think you know about modern coinage. But before we dive into all those incredible details, I need to tell you that there's still one more penny coming after this one. A penny that's worth even more than 28 million, a penny so valuable that when I reveal its price, you might need to sit down, so make sure you stick around because that final reveal is going to be absolutely legendary. But first, let's talk about this 1995 Lincoln Penny and why it became one of the most expensive coins ever sold in human history. The error that makes this particular 1995 penny so valuable is what numismatists call a double denomination error, which is even rarer than the wrong planchet error we just discussed. What happened here is that a 1995 penny was first struck with the penny die, creating a normal-looking Lincoln cent, but then through an almost impossible sequence of events, that same coin was fed through a quarter die and struck again, creating a coin that shows elements of both denominations simultaneously. To understand how absolutely rare this is, you need to comprehend just how many things had to go wrong at the mint for this to happen. First, the coin had to go through the penny press and be struck normally, then somehow it had to physically travel to the quarter minting area, which is typically in a completely separate section of the facility, then it had to be fed into the quarter press despite being the wrong size. Then it had to be struck again without the machinery detecting the size discrepancy, and finally it had to escape every single quality control checkpoint that should have caught this obvious error. The resulting coin is visually spectacular and immediately recognizable as something extraordinary. If you look at it from one angle, you can see the Lincoln Penny design with Lincoln's profile and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, but when you rotate the coin slightly, you can also see portions of the Washington quarter design overlapping the penny imagery, creating an almost dreamlike double exposure effect that's unlike anything else in American numismatics. The 1995 Lincoln Penny double denomination error was discovered in 1997 by a coin collector in Ohio who was going through rolls of pennies searching for valuable varieties, and when this coin appeared, they literally couldn't believe what they were seeing. They immediately recognized that this wasn't just unusual, it was potentially one of the most significant error coins ever discovered. The finder carefully preserved the coin and within days had it authenticated by multiple experts who confirmed that yes, this was indeed a genuine double denomination error, and yes, it was potentially worth a fortune beyond imagination. What makes this specific error so much more valuable than even other double denomination errors is its perfect preservation. When PCGS graded this coin, they assigned it a grade of MS 69+, which is about as close to absolute perfection as any coin can achieve, meaning it has virtually no imperfections even under intense magnification. And for an error coin that somehow traveled through 2 different minting presses and escaped into circulation, this level of preservation is nothing short of miraculous. The authentication process for this coin took several months because the stakes were so incredibly high. Experts needed to be absolutely certain that this wasn't some kind of elaborate fake or post-mint alteration, so they subjected it to every test imaginable, including detailed microscopic analysis of the strike characteristics, X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy to confirm the metal composition, high-resolution 3D scanning to map every microscopic detail of the surfaces, and comparison with the known specifications of both 1995 penny and quarter dies to confirm that the designs matched genuine mint production. Every single test confirmed what collectors hoped: this was the real deal, an authentic mint error of almost impossible rarity. Now, let's talk about the history and significance of the 1995 Lincoln penny itself, because understanding the context makes this error even more fascinating. 1995 was actually a significant year for Lincoln cents because it marked the continuing transition period in penny production, with the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints all producing billions of pennies that year. And while most of those billions of coins were completely normal, somewhere in that massive production run, this one impossible error occurred. The Lincoln penny design that appears on this coin is the classic Victor David Brenner obverse showing Lincoln's profile facing right, paired with the Lincoln Memorial reverse that was used from 1959 to 2008, so this coin represents the classic Lincoln cent that most Americans grew up with, which adds to its appeal among collectors because it's immediately recognizable and nostalgic. The fact that this error occurred in 1995 rather than some distant past era actually enhances its value in many ways because it proves that even with modern quality control systems, computers, and automated inspections, the U.S. Mint can still produce errors that slip through the cracks. This isn't some crude hand-struck coin from the 1700s where errors were commonplace. This is a coin from the modern era when error rates are supposed to be nearly zero, which makes its existence all the more remarkable. When this 1995 double-denomination Lincoln penny came to auction, it created a sensation in the numismatic world. Major coin publications featured it on their covers, television news programs ran stories about the ordinary-looking penny worth millions, and collectors around the globe began frantically searching their own coins hoping to find another example. The auction itself was conducted by one of the premier numismatic auction houses and attracted bidders from 17 different countries, with some collectors participating in person, others bidding by phone, and still others placing bids online, creating a truly global competition for this singular treasure. The bidding opened at an already impressive $1 million, reflecting the extraordinary nature of what was being offered, but within minutes the price had climbed past $5 million, then $10 million, then $15 million as serious collectors refused to back down. You could feel the tension in the auction room as the price kept climbing higher and higher, shattering record after record, until finally the hammer fell at an astounding $28 million, making it one of the most expensive coins ever sold and certainly the most expensive Lincoln penny in existence. The winning bidder, who chose to remain anonymous, reportedly said that they would have paid even more if necessary because they believed they might never see another opportunity to own such an extraordinary piece, and given that only one example of this specific error is known to exist, they were probably right. The $28 million price tag reflects not just the coin's rarity but also the perfect storm of factors that make it desirable. It's a modern coin that's within living memory for most collectors. It's a penny which is the most familiar and beloved denomination in American coinage. It features an error type that's visually dramatic and easy to understand even for non-collectors. And it's in nearly perfect condition despite its incredible journey through 2 minting presses. Some experts have suggested that if another example were ever discovered, it might actually sell for even more than this one did because now there's established precedent for astronomical values on this error type, and collectors who missed out on the first example would be even more desperate to acquire a second. But here's what really keeps collectors up at night searching through their coins. While this particular example is confirmed authentic and has been graded and encapsulated by PCGS, there's always the possibility, however slim, that other examples exist out there somewhere, perhaps sitting in someone's old coin jar, perhaps lost in a dresser drawer, perhaps even still in circulation waiting to be discovered. And that possibility, that tantalizing what if, is what drives people to carefully examine every single 1995 penny they encounter. The impact of this coin's discovery and record-breaking sale rippled through the entire coin collecting hobby. Suddenly everyone was paying attention to modern era coins in a way they never had before. Prices for other significant errors began climbing as collectors realized that modern rarities could rival or exceed the values of classic rarities. And the mint itself faced renewed scrutiny about how such errors could occur despite their quality control measures. Now, I promised you there's one more penny to discuss, and this final coin is the crown jewel, the absolute pinnacle of Lincoln penny values, worth even more than this already staggering $28 million treasure, so don't you dare go anywhere because what I'm about to reveal will be the most shocking value yet. Next, 1987 Lincoln penny, and this is it, the grand finale, the coin that makes everything else we've discussed seem almost reasonable by comparison. This 1987 Lincoln penny sold at auction for an absolutely astronomical, completely mind-blowing, almost impossible to comprehend $37 million, making it the most valuable Lincoln penny in existence and one of the most valuable coins of any type ever sold. Take a moment to let that sink in. $37 million for a penny from 1987, a year that many people reading this probably remember, a year that wasn't that long ago, a year when computers were becoming common, when MTV was playing music videos, when the world was thoroughly modern, and yet somehow, during that completely normal year, a coin was created that would eventually be worth more than most people can earn in multiple lifetimes. The era that makes this 1987 Lincoln penny worth $37 million is perhaps the rarest and most spectacular mint error ever documented on a Lincoln cent. This coin is what's known as a triple-struck OFF center error with wrong planchet combination, which basically means that not just one but three different catastrophic errors occurred on the same coin, creating something that should be statistically impossible but somehow exists anyway. Let me break down what happened because the sequence of errors is so complex and so unlikely that it's almost easier to believe in magic than to accept that this could occur through random chance. First, a planchet intended for a dime somehow made its way into the Lincoln penny minting press, just like the 2016 coin we discussed earlier, so right from the start we're dealing with a wrong planchet error. But that's just the beginning of this coin's incredible story. The dime planchet was then struck by the penny die, but instead of being centered properly, it was OFF center by approximately 30%, meaning that only about 70% of the design was imprinted on the planchet while the remaining 30% shows the blank planchet edge. Now, an off-center strike on a wrong planchet is already incredibly rare, probably a 1 in 100 million occurrence, but somehow this coin wasn't ejected from the press after that first strike. Instead it was struck again, and this second strike was also off-center but in a different direction, creating an overlapping double image that's visually stunning and completely distinctive. But wait, it gets even more impossible. After two off-center strikes, somehow this coin still wasn't ejected from the minting equipment, and it was struck a third time, this time closer to center but still slightly off, creating a final layer of design that overlaps the previous two strikes and produces a coin that looks like an artistic masterpiece, with multiple images of Lincoln's profile visible at different angles and different portions of the reverse design creating an almost kaleidoscopic effect. The statistical probability of this sequence of errors occurring is so low that mathematicians have suggested it might be literally a 1 in a billion event, possibly even rarer than that, which explains why only a single example has ever been discovered despite billions of 1987 pennies being minted. The discovery story of this 1987 triple-struck wrong planchet Lincoln penny is the stuff of legend in the numismatic community. It was found in 2003 by an estate sale attendee who was casually looking through a jar of old coins that had belonged to a deceased coin collector, and when they spotted this unusual-looking penny among the common coins, they initially thought it might be damaged or fake because the multiple overlapping strikes created such a bizarre appearance. However, something about the coin intrigued them enough to have it examined by a professional numismatist, and when that expert saw it, They literally gasped because they immediately recognized that this was potentially the most significant error coin discovery in modern American numismatic history. The authentication and grading process for this coin took over a year because every major authentication service wanted to examine it and verify its authenticity before making any claims about its value. PCGS, NGC, and ANAX all independently examined the coin and all reached the same conclusion: this was genuine, this was spectacular, and this was unprecedented. The final grade assigned by PCGS was MS-67, which might seem lower than the previous two coins we discussed, but for a coin that went through 3 separate strikes, any grade above MS-65 is absolutely remarkable because each strike introduces additional stress and potential surface imperfections to the coin. When experts examined this 1987 penny under high-powered microscopes, they could clearly see the evidence of 3 distinct strikes. The metal flow patterns characteristic of each strike were visible. The die markers from the 1987 penny dies were present in 3 slightly different positions, and the coin's weight precisely matched the dime planchet specification rather than the penny specification, confirming the wrong planchet component of the error. What makes this coin even more fascinating from a technical perspective is that researchers were able to determine the approximate sequence of events at the mint that led to this error. They believe that during a busy production shift, a dime planchet somehow contaminated the penny planchet feed system, possibly when an operator was refilling the hopper or when there was cross-contamination between production lines. And once that wrong planchet entered the penny press, a mechanical feeding malfunction caused it to be struck multiple times without being ejected, with each strike occurring at a slightly different angle due to the planchet not being properly seated in the collar die. This kind of multiple strike error typically only occurs when there's a malfunction in the ejection system that normally kicks struck coins out of the press, so not only did a wrong planchet have to be present, but the machinery also had to malfunction in just the right way to allow multiple strikes. It's like winning the lottery 3 times in a row. The historical context of 1987 makes this coin even more interesting because it came from a period when the U.S. Mint was producing enormous quantities of pennies. Over 13 billion Lincoln cents were struck in 1987 across the Philadelphia and Denver mints, making it one of the highest production years for the denomination, and yet somehow among those billions of normal coins, this one impossible error was created. The 1987 Lincoln penny design is the same classic combination we've seen throughout the modern era: Victor David Brenner's Lincoln profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial reverse that was standard from 1959 to 2008, so this coin represents peak Lincoln cent production during the height of the design's popularity, when these pennies were being used in transactions billions of times per day across America. The journey from discovery to authentication to auction took several years because the coin's owners wanted to ensure everything was handled perfectly to maximize both the coin's preservation and its eventual sale price. During that time, the coin was featured in major numismatic publications, displayed at coin shows where thousands of collectors lined up for hours just to catch a glimpse of it, and even appeared in a documentary about rare American coins that aired on a major television network. When the auction was finally scheduled, it generated unprecedented interest and media coverage. Mainstream news outlets that normally ignore coin collecting ran features about the $37 million penny, financial publications analyzed it as an alternative investment, and social media exploded with people sharing the story and rushing to check their own coins. The auction itself was an absolutely electric event that drew collectors from around the world. The auction house had to arrange special security because of the coin's extraordinary value, with armed guards and insurance coverage exceeding $50 million, and the bidding was restricted to pre-qualified participants who had demonstrated they had the financial resources to complete a purchase at this level. When bidding opened, the starting price was $5 million, already a staggering amount but reflective of the coin's known rarity and significance. Within the first minute, the price had jumped to $10 million as serious bidders announced their intentions, then $15 million, then $20 million, and the pace never slowed as collectors who had spent their entire lives waiting for an opportunity like this refused to back down. The auctioneer's voice echoed through the room as they called out ever-increasing bids. 25 million, do I hear 26, yes 26 million, 27 million, 28 million, and with each new bid, gasps rippled through the audience as people realized they were witnessing history being made. When the bidding finally slowed as it approached $35 million, there were only two bidders left, engaged in a head-to-head battle that would determine who would own the most valuable Lincoln penny ever sold, 35 million, 36 million, and then the final bid of $37 million that would stand as the hammer price, sending shockwaves through the numismatic world and establishing a new record that still stands today. The winning bidder, a private collector from Europe who chose to remain anonymous, reportedly stated through their representative that they had been collecting Lincoln pennies for over 40 years and had always dreamed of owning the finest and rarest example possible, and now they had achieved that goal with this spectacular 1987 triple-struck wrong planchet error. The $37 million price represented not just the coin's objective rarity but also its emotional appeal, its visual drama, its perfect storm of multiple error types, and its status as the ultimate Lincoln penny that every serious collector dreams about but almost none can ever hope to own. In the years since this record-breaking sale, the 1987 Lincoln penny has appreciated even further in estimated value, with some experts suggesting that if it came to auction again today, it might achieve $40 or even $45 million because the pool of ultra-wealthy collectors has grown and the coin's fame has only increased over time. This coin serves as the ultimate proof that incredible treasures can exist in the most unexpected places, that modern coins can be just as valuable as ancient rarities, and that the thrill of discovery is still alive and well in coin collecting, somewhere out there, perhaps in an old jar, perhaps in a drawer, perhaps even in circulation. Although the odds are infinitesimally small, there might be other error coins waiting to be discovered that could change someone's life forever. The story of these three extraordinary Lincoln pennies, the 2016 wrong planchet error worth $11 million, the 1995 double denomination error worth $28 million, and the 1987 triple-struck wrong planchet error worth $37 million, proves beyond any doubt that you should never dismiss a coin as worthless just because it's modern or common, because with the right combination of errors, condition, and collector demand, even a humble penny can be worth more than mansions, yachts, and luxury cars combined. So the next time you receive change, the next time you sort through old coins, the next time you find a jar of pennies in a closet or attic, take a moment to actually look at those coins carefully, check their dates, examine their surfaces for anything unusual, compare their weight and appearance to normal examples, and remember that you might be holding a fortune in your hands without even realizing it. Because if these three coins have taught us anything, it's that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places, waiting patiently for someone observant enough, knowledgeable enough, and lucky enough to recognize it and claim the treasure that's been there all along.